Okay,
Right.
thank you for that. So,
Yes.
what strengths do you think you bring to the program, and what would you offer that you think others could not? I know it's a cadre of you guys that are looking to
Yes.
apply. So, what makes Courtney stand
Yes.
out?
So I feel like a couple of my strengths, like I said, are just I've been academically motivated from a very young age. I completed my bachelor's degree in mathematics in 3 years. And a lot of people, uh, if they know they want to be a teacher, they'll go the education route, which, but I specifically was like, I want to do this in math and be sure that my background in the math is as solid as it can be so that I can be the best for my students and you know, in both lenses. So I feel like I appreciate the mathematics lens just as much as the education lens. And then so I taught high school for 5 years and then was like, I just want to grow and improve and be better and be the best I can be. So I went back and got my master's. And then now I've been here kind of for 5 years and I'm like, okay, I'm ready for something new. So just that always striving to improve and grow and just be the best I can be. I know, like I said, this is my passion. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so just getting all of the education I can possibly get. Another thing I feel like is probably one of my biggest strengths is collaboration. I'm always working with other instructors or professors on projects and just how to better our classroom and knowing kind of when to take a leadership role versus a follower role and being able to do both and knowing when it's appropriate to be one or the other. So,
Thank you for that, Courtney.
mhm.
What in particular attracts you to Baylor's curriculum and teaching PhD program? Like you
Yeah,
mentioned, Carlton has these programs
yes.
and you want to branch out, but are there any like programmatic qualities that you think make it a great choice for you?
Yeah, just specifically a lot of the programs I had looked into, even the and professor we have here that has gone to Baylor's, Dr. Beth Riggs, she has an EDD. And so I've started, she was sort of my motivation to do I want to, do something else, and so I was looking at EDD programs at first, and there's a lot of wonderful programs out there, but I felt like they were all more the educational leadership, wanting some type of administrative role or superintendent, principal, things like that, or the educational psychology. And while all of that I know will play a role in this doctoral program, when I found out there was one specifically in curriculum and teaching, that's what sold me. So I was actually offered some administrative positions that would have lowered my teaching load in previous years, and I turned them down, even though they were more money. I turned them down because I was like, no, my heart is in the classroom. I want to be in the classroom, and so the teaching part of it, it's the only program I've found that's got a curriculum and teaching piece to it versus just the educational leadership type things. And then, like I said, with Tarleton going R1, I know that Baylor is R1, and so they're going to have those components, be able to support me in that journey very well. I love the Christian based theme and face to face change from Tarleton,
Yep.
new teachers, amazing faculty that you talked so well about. And I do have a couple of people that are currently going through the program that have talked very highly of it. So, yeah, there's definitely probably easier routes of online in 3 years, but I'm like, I'm ready to drive and come face to face. And because I do really truly feel like this is the best program that fits my long term goals.
Thank you so much. That was a great articulation of the path, right?
Yes.
So I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Um,
Tell me, Andrea, just a little bit about your interest in the program in terms of why you thought Baylor University would be the best place for you.
So my mom and dad both went to Baylor. My dad graduated from Baylor Law School in 81, no, 86, I believe. Um, and I honestly thought it was out of my reach. Like I just wasn't never felt really smart enough to even attempt Baylor because it just so big and I just didn't think that I could. And then when I got into the Mila program last summer with Dr. Cooper, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm an adult now. Like I actually think I could probably do this. um and keep up with the rigor and um it's home. Like I've lived in Waco my whole life. And so I kind of told myself, why not try? Because I'd never even attempted it before. So that's kind of just why not Baylor?
Thank you. Thank you. So can you tell me a little bit about like what in particular attracts you to our PhD program?
In working with Dr. Cooper in the Milo program,
Mhm.
I was walking by just down in the basement part, listening to classes, kind of standing on the outside, listening to the conversations and different things that were going on. Um, during just as we were like during bathroom breaks, and I just found myself walking around being the culture, the atmosphere, um, the way that even throughout the program, the students were working with Dr. Cooper and then they were reflecting, doing like these reflection type things. I was like, man, that like makes me want to be in school and makes me want to kind of just, I don't know, be around the learning, be around the process of learning and like just what it takes to, I don't know, go higher and go more in depth in what I already know.
Thank you so much for answering that. So tell me.
What strengths do you think you bring to the program that others may not be able to offer?
So, I will say that, I'm very driven. When I put my mind to something, it gets done. My philosophy is where there's a will, there's a way. Um, and and I feel that, if there's something that I don't know or I don't understand, I'm going to take the time to figure it out. I'm also somebody that often has to like completely wrap their head around a particular situation to help make sense of it. So I may not, if somebody asks me a question, I may say, give me a day, give me a minute to think about it so that I can make sure that I can, reply to that, answer very well. So I will say that, like I said, I feel like I'm very driven, and I feel that I'm always eager to learn and collaborate with others as well.
Thank you for that, Tiffany. What are your long-term goals after you finish a PhD? After you've obtained this degree, what do you see for yourself?
So I see myself, hopefully going back in, being a part of public education in some way, shape, or form, whether it's in a position like I'm in now, or maybe in a different capacity, maybe at the state level, or, in some form like that. I also see myself as, getting further into research. Maybe even I'd love to be a part of a university program that works with new teachers, especially around teaching math. Whether that be maybe just an online program, that I'm doing, for those, because I know there's a lot of, online programs now, or maybe it's something to where I'm mentoring teachers who are just newly graduated. So that's where I'd like to see myself eventually. I feel like that's like a 10-year plan down the road, but that is where I see myself going.
My next question is pertaining to faculty members that are here in our program. Are there any faculty members that you've uncovered or done any research on that align to things that you're interested in with regards to your research, or any faculty members that you feel like have done research in the past that you want to continue?
Yes, so right now we've talked previously on the phone with a group of Carleton students, and right now is the time with mathematics and education. Y'all have some really great faculty members, and I'm super excited. The first one is Dr. Wilkerson, of course, president of NCTM, or past president of NCTM. Like, who wouldn't want to work with her? So I'm looking really forward to that. And then also Dr. Cooper as well. I know she's more interested in pre-service and how students are learning throughout the early stages, whereas Dr. Wilkerson is more high school and possibly college level. I also have talked to Mr. Warren, Michael Warren, who's also in the program right now. He was my mentor as an undergrad and throughout the graduate program. And I've talked with him a lot about the program. And he's given me some great advice and like his purpose to help me decide if this was really something I want to do and commit my time. And after discussing with him, I feel like that was the best option for me, is to continue my education and grow as an educator.
So what are your long-term goals after you finish the PhD? After you attain this degree, what are you interested in doing?
So my main goal is to provide that outlet for students. I want to get more involved in research in the art department. There's a ton of pure math research going on, and there's just not that many opportunities for educational. I think the one that I'm working with right now with the department head and associate department head is the only one that I know of going on in our department, which is not the best to go into an R1 research institute. So my goal is to be able to provide opportunities for students and add to Tarleton as an institution and be able to help us grow.
What strengths do you think you bring to the program? What would you offer that you think others cannot?
Well, I'm extremely task oriented. I put all of me when into something, when I do it. I don't just give 10%. I am one of those give 110%, go and give everything that I have. And it's fueled by my passion for what I do. So as long as I have the passion, I bring it. I bring it in the participation, the listening, the speaking, the anything you need. I have a hard time saying no. So I'm like, yes, let's do that. Yes, let's do this. I'm very organized, but I'm extremely excited. In case you can't tell, I'm a very energetic person. You would have thought as I got older that it would have calmed down, but it's still, I'm as energetic today as I was when I started this journey on education. I think the passion is one of the main things.
Thank you for that. What are your long-term goals after you finish a PhD program?
Okay, I'd like to stay some way, hopefully affiliated with Baylor and possibly even, I would like to continue research with high schools and middle schools and students in general. It's where I really want to go to. And I want to become a college professor. I teach already at a 2-year college, and so I teach underclassmen, and I've even been asked to teach mathematics for potential teachers, but I want to be for that upperclassmen level and at that master's level, helping those more students that more focused in an area. I have found that especially with elementary and middle school teachers, there's a lot of math teachers that they don't really have a passion or joy for math. Not everyone. Oh, there is a bad stigmatism towards math, and students come with this negative mindset. So to go in and be a teacher who can change that idea to future teachers to say, you know what, this may not be your strength. You may not want to go and be a math professor one day, but you're going to, in the 4th, 5th, 6th grade, you are going to plant that seed for these students. So when they get into high school or middle school or post-secondary, whether you're going to plant that seed, whether or not they like math or not. So just to get in there and help change some of that mindset and at the college level.
Okay, so one of the first questions I have for you is, what's your primary reason for wanting to complete a PhD in curriculum and instruction? In other words, how will completing this degree help you to achieve your goals?
I'm doing this degree because, well, I put it in detail in my personal statement, but just in quick summary, I feel necessity is laid upon me. I feel the need to do this because of the fact that I grew up in a house full of teachers and educators. My dad, principal, now superintendent, my mom, principal as well too. So education was always on my mind, and they taught in the public school and then started their own private school. And so I've always felt the need to learn and to be a part of learning. And over the last 14 years of teaching in the ECB and Baptist schools, school that they started, I felt the need to take it to the next level. And that really started because of the pandemic. In 2020, you know, our whole lives changed. Everybody, everything changed. And then we had a problem here in Antigua that, of course, you couldn't go to class. And so then my dad was just like, you know, well, son, you got to help me. You got to figure out what we're going to do, you know. And I researched all different kind of methods, studying different learning management systems. And I stumbled on Google Classroom, and then just had to figure out to incorporate our Becca system with the Google Classroom system, and then teach our teachers how to teach online, you know. And that was a difficult experience, but at the same time, I found such a passion for learning, for teaching strategies, for just educational technology at the time too. And I was like, I can do this, you know. This is something I love, you know. And then I started to look for programs. I couldn't find any program at the time I could afford. And with the pandemic, I didn't want to spend any money that I didn't know where the world was going to go. So the following year, I got into University People, their master's degree program in advanced teaching. I completed it last fall, I think November, late November. And at that point in time, I was like, I need to do more, because the government of Antigua and Barbuda at the time, they had no idea what they were going to do. And half of the public school students weren't even doing anything. They just nothing. They had no kind of teaching. And so here am I already implementing a system in my own private school, and they're asking me for help. So I'm helping them put the whole system together. And I realized so many problems in their system. And so I figured, you know what, they need help. You know, and I had a lot of friends and cousins and family members who were teachers in the public school system. And I just said, you know what, I need to educate myself to help not only my school, but my nation as a whole, which I believe is suffering in the area of education. So that's why I'm doing this. And I figured that Baylor is the best place for me to learn this. I was fascinated with the program, and I really, really wanted to learn from this so I could go back and help the people I love and care about. So that's in summary.
What are your long-term goals? You finish a PhD program in curriculum and teaching at Baylor. Where do you see yourself kind of at an end game, at least within, you know, kind of a reasonable period of time there, an end game career-wise?
Well, 4 years from now, I would be walking across the stage in Baylor, graduated with honors. And after I've done that, I would head back home. I'd apply to University of West Indies because they need teachers. They just started a new campus here in Antigua. They one in Trinidad, Barbados, and Jamaica. They just started one in Antigua, and they're looking for teachers. And I know they would love to have an Antiguan teacher who's qualified to be on staff. And because right now they're struggling to find teachers from all over the globe to acclimate to our culture and teach. And since this is where I grew up, and I already know the educational landscape, it'd be easy for me to transition to that. So I would do that. Depending on the situation at ECB and Baptist schools, I probably may end up being the superintendent there and be an adjunct professor at the University of West Indies simultaneously. So I'll do both, and consult with the Ministry of Education here in Antigua at the same time, while I develop my own learning management system. I think I need to do that. I feel the need to do that. So that's what I would do. I would do all those at the same time, and I could make it work. I could definitely make it work. So that's where I will be in 5 years.
Well, that's
Oh yeah, but my work with Dr. Nichols, we started it just about this summer. I met him last spring, I believe, and because I had expressed to Neil Shanks that I was concerned about a kind of dearth of educational resources available to teachers to deal with kind of the digital media environment. I had attended of all the things that I've like tried in my classroom, that was one thing that I felt like I was really bad at. To be honest, I was like, I strike out more than anything else, and it just comes up over and over and over again. So it was just this like almost constant friction. And so I started looking out resources, and I turned to some pretty prominent programs that I had trusted in the past, and found that I felt those programs were also inadequate. So I complained honestly to Dr. Shanks that this was my experience, and he was like, well, I have the perfect person for you to talk to about this. So he put me in touch with Phil Nichols, and I mean, to be honest, I've found so far that Baylor faculty are phenomenally like open to discuss, just open just in general. Like I was so shocked that he was so willing to like just chat with me, even though I wasn't even like a prospective applicant or anything yet. And I'm so inspired by his work right away. He had kind of articulated a lot of the concerns that I had, including like naming the programs that I had 10 trainings with in his research, and been like, these are the problems. I'm like, oh my gosh, like you said that so much better than I even thought it, but yes. So he invited, I had asked him for not only kind of, I wanted to see what research he had done, and he had, graciously shared that with me, but then just if he could plug me into any better resources that he could. And so he kind of let me participate in a couple things that he was doing. I joined kind of a reading book club thing with him. So we were in kind of contact that way. And then when this book project came up for him, he wanted to have a teacher involved in this research project, and he asked me to be that teacher. So the project has evolved quite a bit since I wrote my personal statement. So he's on paternity leave, so I haven't heard from him in a couple weeks, but we're at a point where we've outlined a couple chapters of the book. I've been writing a unit design that I'm going to be doing with my students in May for his review, and Dr. McGill's review as well. And so, yeah, it's been so great. Again, I'm like still in the place where I'm like, I want to see this work, because I've tried so many little things with my students that I've been like, that wasn't the intended outcome of that lesson or whatever. But I feel really good about what we've come up with so far. It's really, we're trying to frame it in this way where it gives a lot of possibility, because in the past, what I've seen fail is that my students kind of collapse on the topic, where they will get it to a certain point and then just be like, there's nothing I can do about this. This doesn't matter. Like, what am I supposed to do? Which is like not how I want my students to like leave my classroom. So we're trying to frame it in this way where it gives them a lot of possibility, where they can both like be very critical of the digital media ecosystem, but also kind of imagine what we can do within that world to act.
Thank you so much. What are your long-term goals after you finish a PhD? I know you said you have commitment issues, but what are your plans after the degree is obtained?
Yeah, and I mean, even that response is like morphed in the past 6 months. I think when I first was like becoming like, okay, I'm doing this kind of thing, I was like, well, I think I hold my actual ambitions like close to me, because I don't want to like be disappointed, because I was like, oh, I know academic jobs are hard to get, and I know a lot of people in the PhD world, and I've been like, well, it's okay, like I could always work for a nonprofit in education, or do some curriculum design, or whatever. But I think at this point, I'm feeling fairly motivated towards entering the academic job market. At the end, again, I'm hoping to have like a book published in the first couple years of my program, which I think bodes fairly well for that. And just, again, like I said, continuing this work. My family's prepared for what that means. I've like coached my husband. I'm like, we might be moving. We will likely be moving, like, where are we okay moving, so forth. So yeah, I would love to, both continue the research, but I also am fairly motivated in the teacher education, front of things as well. When I was at my old school, I got to move into a academic administration role, and I think that really changed kind of my outlook. I think for a long time I had kind of just put myself in a corner, and again, I loved my classroom and I loved all the kind of autonomy that I had in that. But I didn't really involve myself too much in the bigger school issues. And then when I was asked to move into that role, and had a couple months where I was like, oh my God, like I can really lead the situation. And I realized I had quite a bit of power. Like I could hear teachers felt comfortable coming to me, telling me what was going on, especially since I was a teacher there still, saying, this is my problem. And I could either coach them through how to deal with it, or like turn around and be like, okay, this is like a school problem, and I need to come up with like a strategy for like presenting this to the head of school and actually just making this change. And I, even though I've stepped out of that role and I'm just teaching again, I've really carried it with me. I'm like nominated for becoming a school board member right now. So hopefully I'll be able to keep that kind of teacher leader role going, because it's really inspiring at this point. So anyways, I've had some success coaching teachers and coaching teachers into becoming kind of teacher leaders at the school level. So hopefully I will be able to continue that as well.
Perfect. So can you tell me just a little bit about your primary reason for wanting to complete a PhD in curriculum and teaching? In other words, how will completing this degree help you to achieve your career goals?
So I've been thinking a lot about that. I'm originally from Costa Rica. So if I think what will happen in 5 years or 4 years at the end of this program, I can imagine 2 different scenarios. I can either see myself going back to my home country and applying this knowledge in trying to address the needs that I see in the public education system in Costa Rica through leadership, through addressing the quality of the teachers that universities are graduating, and how we can accompany them before they start the teaching and during they start the teaching. So definitely, I would love to gain those leadership skills to go back to my home country and be in a position where I can help other educators feel successful in the huge just chaos that education is right now in Costa Rica. So that's one thing I would love. That's one scenario I see myself in. And then a second scenario is if I had the opportunity to stay here in the United States, where I'm currently working, I have seen a lot of gaps in my area where I work is dual language. So I teach English and Spanish. I work with a lot of English and Spanish speaking families, multilingual learners. And I've seen so many gaps in regards to equity and access to services for ELL populations. I also feel like there's a lot of teachers who have graduated, excellent teachers from excellent programs, but they don't have the knowledge or the tools to deal or to provide the supports that ELL students need. So that's another area I would love to go through, some type of consulting, working through a central office, providing that guidance and that supports to teachers in regards to their relationship with ELL learners. Being an ELL myself, I feel like I can understand where the students are, what their needs are. And as a teacher, I can kind of see where we could help them. But all that it usually comes from a position of leadership. And those are the skills that I would love to obtain through this PhD.
What in particular attracts you to Baylor's PhD program? Is there anything that you found most interesting about what we can offer you that made you apply?
I really love the diversity in the faculty. There's all the professors have these different areas of interest. And I feel like everyone could help you or add in somehow, of course, to your learning and provide the right direction of where you want to go. Also, the community. I feel like a Christian environment is like very healthy and refreshing and something that I might be missing that I would love to be a part of. Baylor University has a great history I know that it's the center for a lot of research development and innovation. So that's also wonderful and very attractive, all those opportunities to access all this learning and research and new things and ideas. So that's wonderful.
It is a very exciting time to be here.
So can you tell me what's your primary reason for wanting to complete the PhD in Curriculum and in Teaching program? In other words, how will completing this degree help you to achieve your career goals?
I think it's twofold. One, I'm an educator at my core. I've been a K-12 teacher for more than a decade. I would love the opportunity to work with pre-service teachers at some point to kind of ignite that fire for social studies that I had, you know, in them. I was a person who, going into college, had every intention of teaching English. I enjoyed social studies, but it was never something that was on my radar. And then I had a history instructor that completely kind of threw it on its head and made me look at social studies overall in a completely different view. And ended up, I took his class again, his part 2. And really learned everything I could from him about being a teacher. And so the opportunity to do the same for other future teachers, while also really engaging myself in civics education. So I'm a big proponent of trying to get students as actively involved as possible with decisions that are being made that impact them, that they very rarely have much say in. So the kind of getting an early start on understanding what their role is as a citizen and how they can affect change moving forward, if we can kind of create opportunities for young people to really make a big shift. I think that would be really important.
Thank you. What in particular attracts you to Baylor's Curriculum and Teaching PhD program?
So again, twofold here. One, I am a Waco native. So unlike many of the people on my team here, I have grown up kind of in the shadow of Baylor University. So it's kind of always stood as like the beacon of academic excellence for those of us that grew up here. And often to the point of being unattainable. It was always the thing that we were reaching for, and it was always just kind of out of our reach. So the opportunity to kind of achieve a lifelong goal of being a Baylor graduate, especially at, a terminal level, would be amazing for me personally. But also the faculty. I've gotten the opportunity to meet and form relationships with the people in this program. And I couldn't think of a better group of people to work with. And I just realized my video is off. I'm sorry. Is that?
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I don't know why that happened. So that opportunity to not only attend a university that, I hold in the highest regard, but also work with people that I think are the best in their field.
Awesome. All right. So my first question for you is, what's your primary reason for wanting to complete a PhD in Curriculum and Teaching? In other words, how will completing this degree help you to achieve your career goals?
Yeah. So my career goals, my hope is to use this time and this work to prepare myself to be a faculty member, a professor doing teacher education, working with future teachers, and also to continue doing research that's creating tools for teachers, for administrators, and for schools to use that will sort of disrupt processes of social reproduction in schooling that create or legitimize sort of inequitable social ordering and systems of oppression. So that's like the vision. And also it's like the reason I apply is because of my experience in the classroom. So as a teacher, feeling those contradictions popping up as I go about the day, trying to make a decision, and feeling like, all right, depending on what I decide here, I could be sort of legitimizing these oppressive structures. I could be pushing like this reproductive process forward, or I could be maybe standing in opposition to that or disrupting that. And so, yeah, like that negotiation, that trying to navigate that in the classroom, and then like reading some scholars work on that to help me kind of clarify, oh, this is what's happening, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm seeing, got me excited about stepping away to get some time and resources and support to do research around those kind of questions. Yeah.
What strengths do you think you bring to the program, and what would you offer that you think others may not be able to offer?
Yeah, I think I'm also just like excited to learn. Really excited for like space to read and continue these kind of conversations. And I think my experience also is a bit unique, maybe in the school settings I've been in, where I've been in middle and high school. The first middle school I taught at was independent. The high school I taught at for the past 5 years was had a contract with the district, but it was a school for students who had been pushed out of traditional settings and they were re-engaging. So that was probably the most influential too, because we were like in conversation all the time, me and my students, about why they had been pushed out of traditional school settings, and started thinking about, well, how could school look different, right? Like, what could we be doing here that would make it feel like it was for you? And then from that, it was like, okay, well, yeah, like how is this tethered to the real world, and what pressures from the real world are we experiencing in the classroom? And so, yeah, I think that is significant. That also was I'm in Philadelphia, and that was with students who are mostly Black and brown. And so I also had a lot of really interesting conversations around what it meant to be white in that setting, and like how whiteness could be showing up or reproduced as a teacher in a classroom with students who were mostly Black and brown. And so those, like, that's part of the sort of conversations that ground me. I've also done some work with a group called Educators for Consent Culture. And so we talk about what it looks like to build consent culture in schools. And we do some stuff also around like gender and masculinity. So I think like those like experiences, those groups and folks that I'm in relation to are my greatest strength.
Great.
Okay,
So
thank
my
you.
first question for you, Nipa, is what's your primary reason for wanting to complete a PhD in curriculum and teaching? In other words, how will completing this degree help you to achieve your career goals?
Yes, thank you for that question. And of course, eventually, anybody on the committee will eventually see this too as well. Kind of my personal background was I struggled a lot as a student. I didn't have a lot of support from instructors. And so currently right now, I am at St. Xavier University. And so we're working a lot with math development. So I specialize mostly in math and developmental math courses here. And we're actually starting out to perform what we call the Math Success Project, which is kind of building out a co-requisite to help students achieve, first of all, college credit. And it's also approaching a lot of students that may not have the best high school education, or it's been a while. They suffer from financial support, and they tend to be a little bit low performing. So I'm kind of the pioneer in this co-requisite for our statistics courses and kind of a researcher too as well in this project on the university level. So our plan for fall is to kind of remove the developmental math courses and actually state it as a 100 level so that those students, when they come in, they actually have some sort of control of their education, some decision making there. So that kind of is focusing more to as well. I only have my master's, and I really want to make a change that's very impactful to students that eventually will, whether they choose St. Xavier, whether they choose any other university, that they have the opportunity to be successful. So I want to be able to make sure that I can provide them with the best that I possibly can. And doing so, a PhD would provide me with the research and also the practical experience that I believe that would be helpful.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
What are your long-term goals after you finish a PhD? What do you plan to do 5, 10 years after?
Thank you for that question. I love hearing this question because it always changes every time someone asks me. My hope is that I would be able to stay in higher education. That's kind of one of the reasons to even start off in this goal. I want to make impactful changes. So that does mean hopefully in 5 to 10 years, this is in a position that's a little bit higher ranked in either in a high school where I can make decisions that would be effective and also, again, very impactful to that area or even larger ranges. So that may look like maybe a department chair of some kind at a university or superintendent at board, anything like that. I would say dream brighter, not
Dream
bigger.
a dream.
Dream a dream.
So I want to first start off by just asking you, what's your primary reason for wanting to complete a PhD in curriculum and teaching? In other words, how will completing this degree help you to achieve the goals that you have professionally?
Okay, so I'd like to answer that in 2 separate parts, if that's all right. Have you ever seen those bags which would have clips in the front? You know, the ones where you clip the click the clip and back in the socket. There used to be those hardcover bags that we would often use earlier during our travels.
Yes.
So, any misalignment or dent placing or even placing that wrong clip would result in you not being able to close your bag at all. But when they're perfectly aligned or they match perfectly, then you're all set to take off on your adventures. So this specific program and I are like that clip and socket. We are what I think is a perfect match. And there are many reasons, but among them, 3 that stand out for me, not only permeate through Baylor University as a whole, but also the School of Education at Baylor and specifically this doctoral program in curriculum and teaching. And these 3, they also kind of blend with each other seamlessly. So they are compatibility, area of focus, and ethos. So, if we read that degree plan and those little descriptor blurbs for each unit that are present, it very clearly focuses on the path I want to follow, which is, not just to develop the skills required, but also conduct breakthrough research that'll help me in my ultimate goal, which is, pushing for intellectual and systemic shifts within teacher education. So this really is that program that will help me develop skills that I will need to, use when I set off in my environments, where I in turn would help equip teachers with the skill sets needed to navigate in multicultural learning environments, and also hopefully improve teacher efficacy of teaching practices in such environments. So I'm really, further down in the future, I'm really keen on pushing educational institutions to take a very hard look at cultural influences that are used in designing and applying curriculum and pedagogy. So I would say the goal really for me is not just to address a complex issue, but it's also to focus on shaping the future in education. And that's why there is this compatibility with this program, which is very high.
Thank you for that, Zia. So tell me more about shaping the future of education. Are you talking about like in a global space, or is it a regionality thing? Tell me a little bit more about shaping the future of education, if it's a particular geographic vicinity that you're talking about.
So my professional goals in that sense are very, very strongly linked to my research interests. So it was something I really firmly believed in what I wrote in my statement, that if as teachers, our expectations and practices are based only on how we learned or what we consider the norm, then we are doing a great disservice to students who differ even in just one, let alone numerous elements, because, you know, we erroneously see this as something lacking in them. Yeah. So many teacher education programs acknowledge that importance of this, but the problem is cultural encapsulation. In practice, they tend to kind of fall back on monocultural approaches. So they are not able to truly prepare a teacher. And international global education today, I think I can use the word catalyst quite safely when I say it's a catalyst for leading change around the world. There's a growing demand for teachers and educators who have the right skills in multiculturalism. That's why it's essential to incorporate research like this, because of the way the world is turning. And, you know, with this increasing in the number of multicultural and cross-cultural education systems, it's becoming really vital that teachers learn skills and how to navigate. And that's the role I'm really keen on pursuing. So, I mean, you know, what I'm envisioning is not something that can be really just accomplished by adding a unit on diversity. You know, these skills have to be something that's established within teaching practices and pedagogy. And perhaps one way to bring it to the table is to highlight the effects on a learner's metacognitive development. I think that will get everybody to stand up and take notice. So yes, I'm really looking forward to equipping teachers with the necessary skill sets. Then when I'm interested in looking at culture more from a geographic lens at the moment, but I know that culture is much more than that. So the scope to expand in the future with research is immense, right? Because you are looking at culture then also in a social sense, cultural domains in an educational institution, academically oriented culture, culture of toxic positivity in education. So much. The list is endless.
It keeps going and going. Yeah.
Yeah.
For that.